Hello, everybody. Nick the Tiro here. One of the fundamental tools and techniques that we need to be aware about in forensics is the ability to hash a file. And what a hash does is an algorithm, it's a calculation that takes the file, looks at the file on a bit by bit, BIT task, and it creates a unique fundamentally signature associated with that file. Now, no matter what I do, I can move that file around, I can copy it, I can move it, I can put it any place I want, and the hash value will not change. But if I change one bit on that file, I flip something, I change it, whatever, then if I rerun the hash calculation on that file, it will be completely different. And this is a tool we use quite extensively in forensics to make sure that we are not damaging or we're not changing the integrity of a file. So, in other videos, I talked about imaging the hard disk. So you're never working on the actual hard disk, or imaging the phone. So you're not working on the actual piece of evidence. And one of the first things we do is we allow that imaging software to create a hash value on the entire image. And then we would create individual hash values for every document or item on that. So we would do that on the image. We would leave the original alone. So if we had ever had to go to court or we had to provide evidence, we can say we never touched the original. We worked on this image and we discovered that all of these images had this particular hash value. So somebody couldn't contest and say they made changes to the original. No, we didn't make. We made a copy of the original, and we may have worked on the copies, and then we can show in the copy did not change at all. They can say, well, there was changes to the copy. You know, they put stuff in there. No. If the copy's hash is identical to the original hash, we know that there has been no changes associated with that file. Now, we will definitely look at more hash values as we work. I just want to do some quick demonstrations. So let me go up to my screen. And I got a couple folders here. I got my hash calculator, which is a free hash calculator that allow me to look at different files and create hash values. And I have a folder called War and Peace. And if I open up War and Peace, I downloaded the complete copy of War and Peace from the Gutenberg project. And it's like 2,600 pages long. It's a very large number of pages. It's not that big of a document, 3,281 kilobytes of it. It's not that big. So let's take this and we'll shrink it down. And I'm going to go to the hash calculator and bring this over, our nice little hash calculator over here. And there's different hash algorithms. Hashing is one directional, which means I can calculate a hash value on a given document or a given image, but I can't recreate that document or recreate that image from the hash value. That would be more encryption. This is not encryption. This is creating a digital fingerprint. But over the course of years, for example, you can see that MD5 and MD4, but a lot of the forensics software now uses MD5, but even that is getting archaic. And our biggest concern with hashing is not that people can discover the information on the files that we hash, but what is called a hash collision. A hash collision is when two completely different files would get the same hash value. Most of the current hash software, for example, SHA-256 and SHA-512, not a problem because the hash values are so big and it's so. But there is concern nowadays with the supercomputers and quantum computing that maybe there could be a way to create collisions, hash collisions. MD4, MD5 are fairly older hash technologies, and they have discovered some collisions that would be associated with it. But that's for a different time, just so we understand that. Now, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to hash War and Peace. I'm going to say calculate. And you can see that, first of all, they're fixed length values. They are hexadecimal values. So no matter what item I may be hashing, they are fixed length. If I want to see SHA-512 and I do a calculate, you can see my digital fingerprint is just getting larger and just more complex. Again, what they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid potential collision. Let's go to War and Peace and let's make a copy of War and Peace. Let's remember 5D1. I don't have a piece of notebook. Just remember 5D1. So let me go to War and Peace again. And I'm going to just make a copy of it. Oh, I'm going to make 2 copies of it. Wasn't patient there. I'll get rid of this one. So we have War and Peace. You can see it's still 3281. If I go to the hash calculator, remember the original War and Peace had an MD5D1. I'm looking right here. And we can remember this is 71. Let's calculate the copy. And there's our 5D1, there's our SHA-512 and D71. So we know these are identical copies of each other. If I was to give them to other individuals, as long as they don't make any changes to it, the different individuals would get the same hash values. I can create as many copies as I want. I can move those copies someplace else. And as long as I don't change the content of that document, the hash values will be the same. Remember 5D1 and remember 71 or 9935, this one right here, SHA-256, right? So we're going to remember 5D1 and we're going to remember 9935. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to War and Peace and I'm going to make just one change within the document. Now I could do this at the bit level, but then I would have to bring up a hex editor and I don't want to do that. I'm going to do it at just the character level, which is kind of a bigger level, but it's still just one character in War and Peace. So I'm going to go to the copy of War and Peace and I'm going to change one thing. I'm going to change the first O in project to a 0, right? Or a capital O, right? 1 byte. 1 byte of information was changed here. If I save this, I could have put in an extra blank space. I decided to change the first O to an uppercase O. Let's go and calculate. Remember, the original value of War and Peace copy, 5D1, 9935. Let's recalculate. And you can see that all the value have changed. It's gone through the hashing calculator again, and it changed every single value. Now I can say, hey, this file has been altered. On a darker side, we do often have to tie forensics on a darker side. I've talked to criminal investigators and other law enforcement, and when it comes to child pornography, it's a horrendous crime and stuff like that. Individuals who have to investigate that have to get professional counseling every 6 months because it's just one of those horrendous things. Anytime there is child pornography on a given device, they have to be extremely cautious with that device because it has basically it's contaminated and they just can't make copies of that. But what a lot of times these criminals will do is they do share these documents with each other. They find pleasure in just sharing these documents with each other. So let's say there's 2 law enforcement agencies working and they both each capture an individual and they discover these files. They discover these inappropriate child pornography files. They can't just look at them and compare, right? What they can do is, though, they can keep the information relative in a database, and inside that database would be the hash value associated with the file. So they can say, without looking at those files, if the hash value on perpetrator X and the hash value on perpetrator Y are the same hash value for the same file, they know those 2 individuals somehow shared that information. So hash values are a way for forensics investigators not just to protect themselves, but to protect others because they don't want that stuff being copied. They can't just transport it over and say, see if the two files are the same. But by knowing that there's a hash value involved there, we can say, that those files are the same or they're not the same. We won't necessarily be using the hash calculator a lot of times. I mean, it's a nice tool. A lot of times people use it when they're downloading files because when they go to a website and they download a file, the website might say, here's the hash value that's associated with this file. When you download it, double check that we got integrity. But other applications will have built-in hashing function that we will see. So another tool at our disposal. Let's go out and learn something.